Hello, good evening, and welcome back. We have some good news and bad news. The good news is the update, and the bad news is the original story. So the original story, from So Much News here, Paul Joseph Watson's website, says Facebook issues new policy saying it's acceptable to post death threats against me being Paul Joseph Watson. And he does post the update here, saying Facebook has deleted its new policy that allowed violent threats against dangerous individuals after a backlash. Dangerous individuals included anyone Facebook didn't like, and from the community standards from Facebook itself. They say, do not post threats that could lead to death and other forms of high-severity violence of any targets where threat is defined as any of the following. However, there are exceptions. And I think when it comes down to things that are breaking the law, either being the First Amendment in the United States or the British 1988 Malicious Communications Act, or any other law that any other country has, of which any of the 2 billion users of Facebook operates, then it may not be a wise move for them to permit the breaking of the law. So, they say, calls for high-severity violence unless that target is an organisation or individual covered in the Dangerous Individuals and Organisations policy, and the other exceptions are statements advocating for high-severity violence and aspirational or conditional statements to commit high-severity violence. So again, they have the exceptions. The exceptions are to terrorist activity, organised hate, mass or serial murder, human trafficking, or organised violence or criminal activity, which would, of course, include Antifa, even if they are supposedly decentralized. When you have places like Portland where they beat it up anti-no, and you have Rose Antifa working with their own symbol, and you have people wearing that and propagating their message of violence to people they don't like, as they are violent communists, then you can see that they are still organised, violent and criminal activity. So, Dangerous Individuals from the BBC, 3rd of May, so 2 months ago, when the people they banned, Miley Yiannopoulos, Alex Jones, Louis Farrakhan, Laura Loomer, and Paul Joseph Watson, of course. Also from Instagram, which means the lovely ladies can't see Paul Joseph Watson's stunning selfies, and of course the curious gentleman. They also banned Paul Nayland, and at the time he was saying, well, if you're banning Louis Farrakhan as well, that is basically just to say that you're trying to be equal. He's like a quota filler, essentially. And they've also banned groups like anti-Islamic UK group Britain First. And they say, we've always banned individuals or organisations that promote or engage in violence and hate regardless of ideology. Obviously not considering Louis Farrakhan was saying these things for decades, saying, I'm not anti-Semite, I'm anti-termite, that kind of thing. But the original post, as I've now read through, didn't take any qualms with death threats being said to Paul Joseph Watson, as they say here from Paul Joseph Watson, that we reviewed the message you reported for harassment and found it doesn't violate our community standards. But this death threat here that says that they left their name, place of work and address is why it might be good for them to actually permit things that are not legal, because then the company is not making a legal distinction where it could still be legal in some countries, and they're trying to be more universal. I'm not for the exceptions. However, it is like an argument that Tim Pool has posited that's slightly different, because I haven't heard anybody say it in this regard, that he says if you ban the fringe extremists on one side, and it seems to be the far-right fringe extremists, then the only people left who are right of centre are the more reasonable people who seem to be much more tolerant and acceptable and accepting. Whereas if you are disproportionate in your bannings and therefore leave up people on the extreme far-left fringe, that the far-left wackos, as Tim Pool would say, then when people are looking at the left, then they see this cacophony of crazy people ranging from moderate and polite to death threats and outright communists wanting to take over the world or enslave people. You know, either they end up in jail or you end up in their gulags, as Stefan Molyneux would say. And therefore, if you leave it up and don't hide it, then they can be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and then people know that they can't hide away from it because there will not be the safety net of the company banning them or getting rid of their messages, and it will be easy to then record, report, and prosecute. Whether or not you think the law should be in place, that's a different matter, but do you think that the company should be making that stance for the country? As Twitter has said, well, hey, you posted something that the Middle East wouldn't like, and you should be aware of that, which I think is great, because then you know not to travel to those countries if they don't like criticism of Islam, and if they have anti-blasphemy laws more severe than the UK or Canada does, for example. then you know, okay, cool, thanks for letting me know. I will ensure that I'm going to not go to those countries. Not that they have anything worthwhile to visit, but nonetheless. But Paul Joseph Watson does say in his video of Facebook issued a fatwa against me, put a fatwa on me, that he's entered lawsuit city, to use the quote, and has encouraged people to go to Subscribestar in order to support him in this venture. He's saying, 2 months ago, via my lawyers, I filed a subject access request demanding Facebook turn over all information relating to me. Facebook has yet to respond to this request, despite it being a legal requirement to respond within 30 days. If and when Facebook ever responds to this legal demand, the next step will be to begin litigation proceedings. The fact that Facebook has literally said it's okay to incite violence against me is going to be a very interesting potential addition to those proceedings. And we have seen the social media giants who are trying to be more and more progressive silencing dissenters are losing stock. Twitter in particular is losing a great deal of value. But do let me know what you think below. Was it right to Facebook to put this out in the first place, which allows illegal behaviour, or are they right to then go against it, and they were wrong to have ever put it out in the first place? Because at least that means that they are listening to people if they put something forward that they don't think is right. Either way, it does show their hand of what they would like to be able to achieve, and that it seems to me, at least, to be that they wish to circumnavigate the law and create their own utopian society, which is much to the chagrin of many other people, seeing as these companies are not held democratically accountable at all, other than through free market enterprise and ideally the free market. Then again, these companies aren't private anymore, are they, considering the amount of lobbying they do, that they are essentially public, and then the tax breaks, discounts and favours they get from the government, they are not private companies anymore, they are integrated within the government, so the private company argument to me falls flat. Sticks and Hammer 666 has more details on this as well. So let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.